Hello, hello, hello. I am back. Hopefully my internet doesn't abandon me again if you saw the chat with Yossi earlier. Anyway, enough about that. I am... Oh, sorry, wrong one. Having a bad day, aren't I? I am here to introduce Amanda Cavallaro, who is an Italo-Brazilian developer advocate at Vonage. She's also a Google developer expert for Firebase, Assistant, and ML Cloud Conversational AI's categories. And she's passionate about cloud technologies, JavaScript, human-computer interactions, and ambient computing. She has a very strong and passionate love of learning. You can also speak to her in Portuguese, English, Italian, and a little Japanese. So if you do want to get in touch with her at the end of this talk, there'll be many different languages that you can speak to her in. Amanda can't be here today, actually. I've got to let you know that now. So any Q&A that you have for Amanda, unfortunately, we will let you know her Twitter accounts and you can find other ways to reach her. But for now, I'm going to leave the stage and I am going to run her video that she recorded for us this week around how Firebase helped her land her dream job. Enjoy.
I'm a Latin woman and I have long brown hair. I'm wearing a white blazer and a purple Firebase t-shirt. And behind me, I have a mirror and I have also a lot of action figures from Japanese animations. So as I said, my name is Amanda Cavallaro. I am a developer advocate at a company called Vonage, and I am also a GDE, a Google Developers Expert for 3 categories: Firebase, Cloud Conversational AI, and Google Assistant. I also care a lot about communities, and along the years, I have been a Women Tech Makers Ambassador, a GTG Cloud London organizer here in the UK, and I'm also an organizer for a community in Brazil called Bots Brazil. I'm going to talk a bit about my past and everything that I've been doing along the way that helped me get to where I am today, working as a developer advocate. So I learned from a very young age that I could be creative, work on small projects, and see them running in action. I learned that by pressing buttons, I could control blocks in a screen. And I also learned that technology would eventually fail me when it would force me to kill my Tamagotchi by using a needle. Do you remember any of these experiences? Or if it's new ones, please let me know in the chat. So I played not only with physical toys, I also had offline and online games during my childhood. I was exposed to a handful of interesting PC, personal computer games. I did not have a video game console, but I had PC games, and it was really the family time playing and bonding together. Back then, we had like a joystick in my house, and it was the time like we would take turns to use the same computer. And you know what was fun about these games that you're seeing here? No one told me they were the best game to no one told me they were the best games to play. I would go to the stalls, like these magazine stores, and they had these like 500 game CD-ROMs, and I used to try all of them, and then eventually like I would download them online. And honestly, if back then I had a community of people that I could talk about these games, because no one was playing them, it was just me and my family, it would have been a lot cooler. So I'm originally from Brazil, and it wasn't that common to own a computer back then. I grew up in a small city, and I had a computer at home because my dad used to work with computers. He was writing software programs. We had a lot of experiences playing games, building things together on the computer. He used to program in 2 programming languages, Fortran and Assembly. Probably people who are younger maybe have not heard of these programming languages, and it was really nice because then growing up he gave me his books. They weren't even books, they were like manuals in English that he tried to translate to Portuguese, and he also knows a lot about electronic. So I grew up with him like kind of giving me outlets, like different ones that he would build with different types of cables. And we also had like a moment together that we used to install the Windows OS together, and they were floppy disks. What else? And he used to always tell me, like, I don't care if you break anything, just try and learn. So we used to open the computer, and he taught me the parts of the computer and some hacks, like the memory is not working, just rub an eraser on it. So I learned a lot from my dad. And eventually, when I grew up and I eventually chose to study computer science in university, it was so obvious to me that that's what I wanted to study. But it was like weird because people were telling me, oh, you're a woman, you can communicate so well, are you going to waste your time like on the computer? Go do something else. And there was so much discouragement. I really wasn't expecting that, because I grew up just like in this place that everyone was kind of like encouraging me to do that. And I appreciate that's not the case for anyone else, for not many people out there, not anyone else. And I'm just trying to give you a bit of inspiration from my own story. If you don't have someone to kind of motivate you, here's my motivation. You can do it. So going a bit back in my story, when I was 9, I had the opportunity to use my HTML and CSS knowledge that I learned just by like searching the internet to build an online community to talk about the thing that was my biggest interest at the time, Japanese animation. It still is up to this date, by the way. I created a community that people could talk about Sailor Moon, no matter where they were in Brazil at the time. I was, and I still am fascinated by the power of community. The fact that someone from a small city like me in Brazil could connect with people from all around my country to talk about the shared common topic of interest is awesome. So this screenshot that you can see over there is using that website Wayback Machine, that basically it takes some snapshots from old pages back in the time. And this was the page that I created. It was an MSN groups. I remember the first website was like communities.msn.com. And basically I shared GIF. I pronounce GIF, not GIF. So there were some animations. It was like the most fun thing at the time to be able to download this, because it wasn't that obvious how to download images on the internet back then. I remember that I had no idea how to do it. I thought you could only like get it from chats, and my dad used to download them. He used to do the parental control for me. He'd look into the images and see, would you like to download this one or that one? It was such an interesting time. So I was really fascinated by this, and that now I didn't only have to talk to my dad about these things. I had a community of people in Brazil that could talk about this with me. So this is a bit about my past. I talk about my childhood, university, and I worked really hard to get where I am today. And I'm really extremely thankful that I joined my passion for creating, building things, computers, programming, and community working as a developer advocate. And I'll show you how Firebase helped me get there. So I have hosted a number of events in my life. There was a time in the UK, in London, that we were hosting like events every week. It was at a venue called Skills Matter. And so we didn't really know what people were going to like most. So we were hosting events about TensorFlow, Firebase, Kubernetes, what else? Like we were trying all different kinds of events. But whenever we used to host anything Firebase, the room used to be at capacity. We had like whiteboards and different tables, and people, they started to build their own projects to help each other to write on these whiteboards. They were discussing, really excited to build things together. And that's when like the first moment that we realized that Firebase is going to be like a big success in our community. There was also another event. I was working primarily with React at the company I was working for. And I wanted to host a series of events about it. So we hosted one first event, like learn JavaScript in 9 weeks. And it was a success. It was really nice. But like taking 9 weeks to learn something, like the commitment that you have, even if you really want to learn it, it's a lot of commitment. So I talked to my two dear colleagues at the time, Duncan and Stefano, and we said, so what could we use? Like, what piece of technology could we use that, like, in just a month is more realistic, 4 weeks, that people go there and they can learn how to do like the whole, like the most basic thing with the website, but like starting from beginning to up, what could we use? So in the end, we of course chose to use Firebase. So people learned how to create a website, to store some data, to have a password protected area, and to publish the website online in just a month. So I've noticed that using Firebase has been a constant during our events. Another event that I've hosted, I'm sharing the video here. It was at the Google offices. It was the International Women's Day 2019, and people built their own karaoke box using Google Dialogflow and Cloud Functions for Firebase. So they not only learned the coding part, like there were mentorship, there was me and other people from GDG Cloud London and volunteers. So we were helping them out with the coding part, but we also used what we built. We sang together, we networked, we ate together. It's really, really fun. It was fun. So as I've been saying, I've organized, spoken, attended a great deal of meetups and conferences in my life. And I gave a talk in the last Firebase Summit in person too. So what I could see is that it was a lovely community. It made me feel valued and that I belonged in there. And I actually had the opportunity to see friends that I hadn't seen in a very long time. And I remember when the keynote started, there was a friend of mine from Brazil, and I really wanted to see him. And I said, can you just raise your hand? And then he raised his hand. Like I took a picture of that. It was so awesome. I talked to people like from Brazil that are interested in Firebase, that are living here in Europe right now. I met new people. I met other people from the community that also traveled to be there. It's really like I feel like I belong in there. And that event, that summit, it also gave me the visibility that more people started to try out the courses and the blog posts that I was writing. They were contributing to my open source projects. So I had the opportunity to network and meet with new people. A little bit more about the summits that I went to. So this is kind of like the events that I really like. There were arcades and games that, of course, they were using Firebase. So you could have fun and do some cool activities. And I got to talk to people from so many parts of the world. We were all sharing one common interest, learning more about Firebase. I remember the keynote, people being together, like every time there is a new announcement, everyone is like cheering together. And it gives me really so much joy to be part of a community that is really like trying to build new things together, that are excited about the new things that are always coming out. So it's nice. And so talking more about my talk that I gave at the Firebase Summit, it was very rewarding, especially because when I showcased Cloudrobe, one of my projects, someone from the audience right after, they shared, they had the same idea. This person was from a different country. Of course, it didn't have like all the features from my Cloudrobe, but they had some other ideas that they thought, and they said that I inspired them, that they would like to give a talk someday. So I was going to repeat that same talk in the afternoon at the summit, and I invited this person to come on stage with me. And I said, look, doesn't matter if it's 10 seconds, 1 minute, just let people know what you shared to me about this project, so we can tell them like, look, there's more features that you can use, and you get your very first opportunity to talk in public. So it was the very first time that person went on stage, and I felt thrilled to have been part of that person's story and to facilitate that. It's something, one of these things, the magic that happens at the Firebase Summit and at so many other events as well. This year, I also had the opportunity to speak at the Firebase Summit, but this time it was in the remote format. So I didn't bump into anyone or saw friends from Brazil or anything like that, but people still messaged me saying, oh, I saw your talk, that was interesting, thank you for sharing. I also met new people because they commented on the video, they found me on my social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So it still connected me with people. It felt like the very first years of my life when I only knew people from the internet, like when I shared my story about Brazil. So it was different, but it was still nice. But to be honest with you, I really can't wait to go to in-person conferences again. But yeah, it was nice. It gave me, so Firebase here in everything that I'm sharing, it gave me the possibility to do more public speeches, to inspire new speakers, and to share the knowledge. And what I've seen throughout the years, that I've had a calling to help and support people, and the amount of time that I had to dedicate to my passion, community, conferences, it was limited. There's just so much you can do. And oftentimes I struggled that I had too many ideas, too many side projects, too many domains I bought. But do you feel the same way as me? But not enough time to implement them. Let me know in the chat if this is something that also happens to you. So it can be time consuming to see if things are doable or feasible, because you have to spend a lot of time building the infrastructure of a new project that's going to hold the core of the business. And Firebase helps me shorten the time between an idea and a proof of concept. It provides me with a framework and components to make my life easier and the development time shorter. I have used many of the Firebase services in my project. So here are some of them: hosting, cloud functions, logs, authentication, cloud storage, databases, A/B testing. And there's so much more you can use in various types of projects. May it be a personal one, something that you're doing at work. There was something that I did at work. So we were trying to choose the order of the stand-up, who was going to speak first. So me and my QA fellow at this company I was working for, we worked together and we built it and we hosted it using Firebase hosting. So really, there's so many things you can do, from the the simplest thing to a more robust thing. And also you have the opportunity to choose the programming language and SDK, software development kits, that work best for you. For instance, Jones Kit and I, we built a mentor search fulfillment code using a serverless approach together, and we used Firebase Firestore to persist our data. He wrote his fulfillment code in .NET, I did mine in Node.js, and in the end, we both achieved the same outcome. This is something that I can see also in our event at GDG Cloud London, because sometimes we prepare workshops for people, and then they say, oh, but I don't know programming language X. And we say, oh, but probably we also have that. So go and try, like, see the documentation, see if you can find it in your programming language. So most likely you're going to find it there too. So I believe that's something that's really important, being able to use something, not having to learn a new programming language to use that. And that's something that actually happened in the beginning of my career, because I was going to build my very first chatbot in Ruby on Rails. And on the internet back then, there were no tutorials in Ruby on Rails. So I actually had to do my first one because I found tutorials in Python. So I kind of did the first one following a tutorial, and then I tried to replicate it in Ruby on Rails. So that's not a good experience. And really, Firebase allows you not to have to do these type of things anymore. Quick break, I talk a lot. So in the past, I was just starting to use Firebase. I was at the Women Tech Maker Summit, and I got stuck. I had a bug, and I saw Puff in a yellow t-shirt written Firebase, and I said, look, I'm sorry, I don't know you, but could you help me out? I see you have a Firebase t-shirt. Do you work there? Could you help me out? And he did. He helped me out for many hours during that conference, and in the end, my code worked. Because mainly I was doing something that was focused on actions on Google. I kind of did a little thing with Firebase, but that wasn't my area of expertise at all. So he helped me out with that. I managed to give the workshop. It was really nice. So these kind of experiences that like someone that at times you don't even know stop and help you out, they can be replicated in other forums, in other places as well. So if you go on GitHub, Stack Overflow, you can see that people are actively participating, asking questions. They're helping build out the community. So if you go on social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you search for Firebase, you can see the number of people who are excited about the new things that are going to come up, the announcements, the extensions that they are building. So people are building projects using it. So there are also other things that you can use, not only like asking questions to other people, but there are these types of interactive labs and tutorials that mainly like, even if you're just getting started, you have never seen Firebase before, or maybe you've seen it in a different programming language, or it's been a while and you use, I don't know, any easier use case. You can follow these interactive tutorials that show you from zero to get something up and running, make it be in your machine, hosted in the cloud. And there are so many like free YouTube videos that you can learn, see projects that people are using that they are building using Firebase. There are tons of resources for you to get started, no matter where you are in your career right now. I have created courses, blog posts. I have taken other people's courses. So it's just really nice to be able to follow these things. There's many free resources. There are paid resources. So I'm really excited about the things that maybe you have built or are going to build. So share them with me, with us. And what kind of projects can you build? So allow me to share some of the things that I've built along the years. Before I get to the projects, interestingly enough, all of my pinned projects on my GitHub accounts, they currently use Firebase. And I didn't do this just for this presentation or anything like that. And I can really see along the years how much I have been using Firebase and how it helps me speed up my projects. If I see something is not going to be what I want, it turned out to be not what I expected, go to the next project. So about the projects, I created a bunch of projects with this serverless approach. I created a chatbot for my wedding using Cloud Functions for Firebase and Google Dialogflow. I've also created the karaoke actions during International Women's Day that I showed you. So people, they built it, they sang together. I've also hosted many websites using Firebase hosting. The mentor search one that I talked to you about, that I did with John. Also, I attended a conference. I had a booth and I had an idea like, what can I do? It was a conference to help girls and women to get started with programming, like in STEM in general. And I built an HTML and CSS playground using React and Firebase. So people used to come to my booth, play with this application that I built. It was kind of fast to do it. So really, it really helps me with prototyping. And I created Cloudrobe, which is a project that allows you to take the pictures that you have in your closet, and then you can choose what you're going to do with it, and you can create your wardrobe in the cloud. The motivation that I had to build this project is that I'm originally from Brazil. I married someone from Italy, and I live in the UK. And I felt like I didn't know how to get dressed for any of the countries anymore. And I just thought that building an app that I could actually like visually see to do like the outfit planning and everything would help me out. And I had more ideas like this is not implemented yet, but this project is open source and maybe you can help me out. So when I'm going to give talks in different places, I could use a weather API that tells me how the weather is going to be like in that place. And then it could kind of tell me which clothes I could wear on that day. So there's so much you can do with that. So this project, it uses React, excuse me, Firebase cloud storage. So you or anyone you know is welcome to contribute. It's open source. Open source is something that's so important. And, you know, some people are getting started and they ask me, so should I kind of share my project? It's so stupid. It's early days. I feel that people are going to judge me. No, that's the thing. If you do something, you can get the community to help you out. So may it be with like a README, with actual functionality. So this project here, I had so many people help me out with some of the parts that I struggled or because I wanted to focus on something else. So it also helped me with open source projects and to get to know more people and build this type of relationships. And as a developer, knowing how to receive and give code reviews is something that I believe people should master very well. And I am a Google Developers expert for the Google Assistant, Cloud ML Conversational AI, and just recently I also became a GDE for Firebase. Many of the things that I do when I'm creating chatbots is using cloud functions. And I also use the Firebase databases very often. It's a sweet set of tools that if I want to create something using the Google Cloud, it already creates the project, which is the same project if I'd like to open the actions on Google console, the Firebase console. I'm using the same project, but I'm going to use different set of tools depending which console I'm currently looking at. And it makes my life easier because I'm already in that ecosystem. But just a disclaimer, it's not that like, oh, okay, I create something with that, then I cannot use my webhooks or something using my database or something that's hosted using a different cloud provider. No, you can also use other, let's say, building blocks to do things, building with Firebase, with Actions on Google, with the Google Cloud. But I'm just saying that if you would like to stay in that ecosystem, it's really easy because it's the same project and you can just use this different set of tools. And I have a picture here of when I was beginning to learn about all of these things. So becoming an expert is not just something that happens overnight. There's a lot of work in the background, a lot of work that people don't see. And then when you see our like finished projects, maybe you don't see the amount of effort we put on that. So really be kind to the GDs who are out there. They really study a lot to share with you in the best way that you can learn. And it's even helped me, Firebase, with my academic purposes. I've been working on my thesis, and many of the things that I have to do are theoretical. I have tons of things to research. So when I'm doing the part, which is like the coding part, Firebase helps me speed up running my project, get it up and running, to test things out. So if I need to get rid of something, do something else. It helps me with the prototyping. And even if the project goes into a code state, it can quickly get back to being available. So if it takes a longer time for my professors to correct it, I'm sure it's going to be available for them. So for something so important, such as my thesis, I chose Firebase because I really trust it. Firebase helped me land my dream job for all the reasons that I showed you before, but I'm still using it up to this date. I've been creating a number of video explanations for developers on the Vonage YouTube channel. So there's 2 videos here. They are about Firebase. You're very welcome to learn about Firebase and other technologies I create video tutorials about. And you can also check the pieces of content that I've been creating on the blog. So these are blog posts. There's many things I've been doing there with or without Google technologies. A very interesting one that I've built lately is how to build your very first Chrome extension to hide your API keys. So that's one I recommend. And there are some very interesting projects there. So please check out the things that I've been doing. And so to sum up everything that we've talked about today, Firebase not only gave me the tools to prototype and implement in a short time frame, but it facilitated my connection with people. It helped me to make the best of my time, the possibility to do many projects, and the opportunity to have a developer relations experience. It allowed me to create a portfolio with all of these projects that I told you that I've been adding to GitHub, the courses that I've been creating. So in the end, it was an appealing CV for a developer relations role. And I'm so glad that I didn't listen to the people in the beginning of my career that were telling me, why do you want to work with computers? You're so good at communicating. You're so good at doing different things. Well, I like computers and I like people. And I'm so glad that I have the privilege to work as a developer advocate today. Thank you for your time. See you around.